right, guys, glide bait, specifically phantoms and hellhounds. Hands down the most popular musky glide baits there are. They're great for pike as well, and these things, you can find them worldwide. The two perennial favorites, the leader of the pack, if you will, are the Phantom and the Hellhound. So this is a 6-inch Squirrely Phantom in my right hand, and this is a 6-inch Squirrely Hellhound, or they call it a Hellpuppy, whichever way you want to go with it. These guys are fantastic glide baits for seasoned musky anglers down to beginners, but we're going to cover all the basics of how to fish glide baits and some more advanced stuff on how to get more bites using these two baits. So the first thing we want to do when we get a glide bait is we want to check this bait out. All these baits are mass produced. They put a lot of love and care into them, but not everything's perfect every time. What I'm going to do is, first things first, is I'm going to look at my glide bait and make sure that these eye ties, the line ties that are into the bait where your hook rings are, split rings, I'm going to make sure they're perfectly aligned. I'm just going to lightly, very gently bend those and make sure they're in perfect alignment on this bait. It's really going to help us out. Also too, on the nose of your bait, I want to make sure this thing is not crooked. Like if I do this, oh no, if your bait is bent like that, I bent it to the side, that is no good. We want to make sure that thing is perfectly lined up as dead center as we can, so we can, probably not your split ring pliers, but grab some pliers and lightly bend that in the way you want it to square that guy up. Same thing goes for the phantoms. Grab the big phantom here. You're gonna look down here, you know, maybe a tweak, maybe not. And then on the phantom, I have the screw-in eye, right? Make sure he's flat. So he's sitting nice and flat. So on your hellhounds, you want him as true up and down as you can. On the phantom, you want him sitting flat as you can, side to side. Now, if you get a bait that's not running exactly how you want it, you can tweak ever so lightly on these to true that bait up, because the ultimate goal is that this bait's gonna go left, right, and it's gonna get crushed. And I'm gonna show you how to make sure you get more glide bait muskies. First and foremost, good setup's always important to have. I'm actually fishing, this is the Daiwa, the Lexa 400-7-1. This is the Musky Shop Shelled Rod 9.6, and I do have a fluorocarbon leader on. If you're solely fishing glide baits, if you're dialed in on glide baits, you can get away with a straight wire leader. Sometimes they'll help you with a little extra snap to the snap to the bait, if you will. And I want a heavy action rod for this application. Now, an argument can be made, if we're solely jerkbait fishing, you can do some damage with a shorter rod. So at 8 foot, at 8'6", depending on how you like to hold it. So I'll show you with these large rods how I like to actually physically hold the rod so that I get the best action of ease of use. I'm gonna hop up here. Got this big phantom on. Getting positioned here. So what I'm gonna look at when fishing these baits is I'm trying to get that snap to the rod, right? So the goal being that this bait goes left, right, left, right, left, right. So with these longer rods, I'm gonna throw it out and I'm gonna cock it off to the side, right? So I want to have that rod off to the side of my body. So the center line for the bait is over here to the side, right? Back in the day, when I first started, and for years, we had these shorter rods, so we were right in line with ourselves. So there is some merit to breaking out a short rod for these, where you can fish that bait right here. I'll choke up a bunch, which is gonna be awkward, but theoretically you would have a way shorter rod here. Just depends on how you want to work it. Like I said, with these 9 foot, 9'6", over to the side here a little bit is perfectly fine, right? And what we're gonna do is we're gonna snap that bait. Now, if you've never fished glide baits, there's a couple ways to do it. The reason I mentioned I had the 7-1 reel, and this will apply with the 6-3-1, you can get a good action with quick reels, just simple handle turns. So I'll throw this guy out here, try to keep him high. I can throw that bait out and get a serviceable left to right using just the handle. Zip, turn. He's going left to right, okay? I've got a pretty good action out of that. He's doing it. Here he comes, woo, right? So I'm getting a decent action out of that bait, right out of the package, made sure he's tuned, simply using little quarter half turns, right? So, sorry, that's all good. So I'm using little quarter half turns here. So I'll just, half my reel, all it's taken, right? And I've got a serviceable walk the dog. Now, the reason I prefer to use the rod for action, it's got a lot more punch to it, right? That bait's surging out. With the rod hits, We're gonna get more rock out of the bait and a more erratic snap to it, right? The reel seems to be smoother, right? But this hard snap where that big, he's jerking to the side really hard. He's injured, he's wounded. Eat me, eat me, eat me, right? So we are adding a better pop to this bait, which is a little bit more erratic, a little wider in the side sweeps than just the reel. But hey, man, you can catch muskies simply using the reel with both the Phantom and the Hellhound. I'll show you on the big Phantom here real quick. It's not just Phantoms, Hellhounds, you can get that simple reel action out of them. All right. Show you again up high here. There it is. He's zipping right in. You can see that little white spot on the top of the head of that bait. Wham. There he comes, right? Using the half turn method, right? Getting a great walk out of him. So that's how we can get started. If you really want to get the best action, like I said, we're going to go with our rod methodology here. So we'll start working that. So when do we use glide baits? When should we use glide baits? I don't think there's a bad time of year. These are not seasonal baits to me. These are condition baits. Do we have poor conditions? Is it post-frontal? Is it, did it storm last night and it is bluebird and things are just not clicking? What do we need to do? Glide baits, because of their slow advance, and what does that mean? They spend more time going left to right than they do coming forward. So they actually spend more time in the water opposed to like a bucktail. So, if you throw a bucktail out there and you burn it in, its travel, it's boogieing, right? Even slow. But these glide baits, we're kind of hanging them. We're finessing, letting it hang in there, right? We can really slow down and pull up muskies that weren't hungry before. And they go, oh, well, there's a snack coming. I might as well take a stab at it, right? A muskie might just go, well, I don't want to chase down a bucktail or your big topwater. This is a great way to engage with fish. If you struggle, say you're new to the game and you've struggled on tough condition days, glide baits, you got to add them to the game. So that's the the scenario when, bad weather, winter, spring, summer, fall, they're going to work. Now, I do like glide baits in aggressive fishing situations as well. They're phenomenal over top of deep weeds, right? Let's say we're in a big weed flat and we need to cover some distance here. Big long casts with a glide bait, they're hanging over top of the weeds and they're really a wider vibrational profile or a bigger search scope, if you will, than a bucktail. So they're phenomenal for covering big weed flats where you can come into that area and simply cover the tops of weeds and pull up fish you're not going to get with diving rods, you're not going to get with a bucktail. So just add them. You got to have them in your game. They're so intrinsic to musky fishing. So how do we catch fish with them? They have that great action. They look great. They're going left to right. It's a no-brainer, right? They're going to eat them. What you can do that's a negative with these things is hypnotize muskies. Don't sit there and show them everything you got and just constantly have that thing zipping left to right. I think that's the kiss of death with glide baits more so than anything. Is guys will get in here, and I'm going to just flip over to this side. Guys will get these things going right. They go, oh man, I got some new glide baits. I'm adding them to my musky routine, and I've really got them left to right. They're using the reel, or they're using the rod method. Oh, it looks good. That looks so good. Blah, blah. Okay, once we've got it working and we got a feel for this bait, we know what it's going to do, we got to get serious about letting it hang. Big pauses, right? I would say that the vast majority of my glide bait strikes have come on the pulse. I can't really recall too many muskies that I've caught over the years that hit while the bait was in motion. Right? I've had a ton of clients get awesome follows from big fish because they weren't adding enough pauses. Right? If we need constant motion to get a strike, we're using the wrong bait. Simple, right? If you need a bait that is always advancing and you cannot stop yourself from moving it, glide bait's not the right bait. If you're willing to add some finesse and some pause in your game, this is where we're going to get started. So let's talk about the when, where, and how to add pauses in a cast. So we're in this little cup bay right now, right? The boat is at 11 feet, And obviously the shoreline 0 feet, and it's just a very basic kind of scooped out bowl shape. So not an uncommon place we're going to target muskies. You come in a scenario like this, we need to strategically think about where we're going to pause. So I'm going to throw up shallow over top of the weeds. Right over top of the weeds, I'm going to give it a 1, 2, or 3, or 4. Try to get some attention. And then pause over top of the weeds, right? Advance it again, pause. A major place I'm going to pause is when I get to that weed edge. So my outside weed edge, done. Let it hang, extend it hang, right? Coming back out of that, I'm going to get some more motion in the bait, couple pauses in the middle, and then as I come in, and we're targeting negative and neutral fish here, I'm actually probably going to jam that rod down or get that rod down and try to keep that fish's head down and add a big pause boat side. So what I'm getting at as quickly as possible is strategically placing the pauses in your bait. It's not arbitrary. So, you know, when I get over top of the weeds and I get the bait going left, right, and I stop it in the weeds, I'm not going to let it hang quite as long as I'm going to let it hang on the outside of the weeds, right? Don't just arbitrarily go, this is when I'm going to pause because I like my cadence. Think about strategic locations to make elongated pauses in that retrieve. So let's say this whole bay is weeds and I've got an outside weed edge, you know, 30 feet from the boat. Okay, that allows me just a little bit of time to pause before I'm in the weeds, right? But when I get to that outside edge, that's when I'm just going to give it the longest hang time again, right? Let that thing sink in their face, make that muskie look at it. Then I can come back in into my retrieve. Now, it doesn't have to be a weed edge. You can be fishing rocks. You can be fishing just pure structure. But you're going to get more out of these baits by being strategic when we pause. Don't make it arbitrary. Don't get your cadence down when you go left, right, pause every time, right? Be erratic with it, but be strategically erratic, if you will. So we're going to be doing different things, but I'm going to make sure I'm identifying major areas that demand that we add extended hang time or a pause. So, you know, there's, whether it be timber, you could be in the south and fishing timber, you know, say there's a tree or something of that nature, and we're going to work a glide bait down the side of it. We work the glide bait and we work down the trunk of the tree or whatever it is, we're staying out of the limbs, and we got an open pocket, you can hang there, things of that nature. But, you know, when we get to, say, the outside of a laydown, that's when you just go, boom, make them look at it, right? The kiss of death in glide bait fishing is the inability to stop touching all this. You know what I'm saying? Leave it alone. No more. You've got to stop wanting to move the bait all the time. That hang time is when they're going to eat. So condition yourself, train your hand to not want to always be moving that bait, you know? So if we're strategic about getting these baits going right, we're considering where we're pausing. Okay, there's a pocket in the weeds, let it hang there, you know? Or here's denser weeds, I'm coming up on a good section, or I'm coming over the rock pile, or I'm coming to the timber. Whatever cover you're fishing needs to be addressed appropriately with your glide baits by adding the pauses there. So a big extended pause there just came a little one. That's funny. about a 20-incher cable. But anyway, when we're fishing appropriately and we're thinking about cover, we're thinking about structure, we're going to address those major areas where we have this visual picture, this mental picture of where a muskie will be. That's where we need to pause it, because that's how we're going to hit, right? So that's an important thing to just start getting in your musky mantra, your mind games for these things. Strategic pauses and how that we do it. So one thing you can add in on these pauses, once you get it under your belt, or you maybe already do. All right, we're coming in here and I'm going to walk the dog here and I go, make your pause. That bait is just sinking. Small slack line pops, right? I'm advancing very little. Now, this is for winter time, cold water. This is for negative to neutral fish. So if I'm gonna hit, say, a weed pocket in the summer, this is just deadly. We've all been there. You know, you've been on a great bite somewhere and the muskies have been in the weeds. It's been great. You know, we've been doing this. We know they're in the weeds. They didn't go anywhere else. They stopped biting. We got a cold front. Being able to manipulate these baits almost in a twitching matter over top of some thick cover. So That weed scenario, let's say hey, no, there's a pocket, a major area in the weeds. I'm going to work that bait with pauses up that major area. Then I'm going to stop. And then I'm going to slack line pop that bait up. It is advancing far, far less than it was. I'm not reeling. I'm not working that bait left to right. I'm working it left to right, but I'm not working it with a forward momentum. Okay? I'll show you. You go, what is he talking about? Try to get here by the boat. So with some slack line added in, I'm going to attempt to keep that bait relatively in a small area, right? I'm adding some more hang to that bait in a weed pocket, okay? So whether that be over top of a rock or a pocket or whatever, by slack line popping a glide bait, like a Hellhound, he's not really advancing much, but I'm still getting that turn, right? So, oh, I'm wounded. I'm on an outside weed edge. Come eat it, right? You're presenting for a longer time for a negative neutral fish, which is often the key. Now, you know, this is going to be some forward motion to it. However, not much. And you can hang on those edges. I've pulled fish that just simply, there was no other way else to get them. Where, let's say we're in a rock pile or something of that nature. You know, we're in this little rock scenario and there's a couple big boulders and we're pretty confident muskies are there. Just getting this bait right over top of that thing and popping it right there. Just, it's like a floundering fish. You know, this thing's so injured it's not advancing, it's not moving, it's not doing anything, is a deadly tactic. So, you know, I'd add that in. Let's say we're working this glide bait, you know, we hit that important weed edge, boom. We don't have a follow yet, but we want to be probative in that area. I know it seems weird, but you're going to be able to make that thing hang on the outside edge, and then we can re-engage, right? Now, some of you are already thinking it. How do we convert more following fish? I've been using this secret for a while. It's basically, you know, just came to me one time we're fishing, how to make these fish eat a little more often. Let's say we got a hot fish, right? We're coming in, we're moving this, okay, we got our paws. And a lot of times with glide baits, you'll really see that fish kind of kick into them, right? They'll come in, they typically will come in on the bait and then commit on the follow. But what I'll do, if I got a fish that's negative, neutral, bad conditions, things aren't great, man, that fish is coming in, I'm running out of tarmac, right? I'm running out of room, same ordeal, right? So back to that scenario. Okay, I threw the edge, I engage him on the pulse. There he is, right? I'm running out of runway, ups, slower advance, ups. That bait is still working, but it ain't coming close to the boat. It's kind of floundering in place. Then I can commit and come back to there, right? So if your boat control is decent and you're not fighting a lot of wind, you can gain 4 or 5, if not 6, left to rights without more advancement, which is just deadly. I can't tell you how deadly it is. When you add it into your musky game, you're gonna see how deadly it is. I do that, you know, if I get a fish coming in and it's a new fish and I haven't engaged with him yet, I'm not gonna do that. But if he goes back and I get him on the second follow-up, that's how we're gonna nail him. They can't stand it. That thing's kind of bouncing in place. It takes a light touch, however, right? That's one thing I'll tell you. It's a lighter touch. I'm not sitting here working like I would a Kraken or a tube. That's a light slack line touch going, oh, don't you move, don't you move. You know, and it's the same methodology, you know, a lot of old timers used to use with walk the dog topwater baits. Bounce them in place. When you can bounce them in place, you're gonna get the eat. So, we covered there's no wrong place, there's no wrong time to fish a glide bait. But there are some finer points. And I think something that is difficult and something everybody struggles with, because there's no silver bullet for this, is what do we do Boatside? We've moved a muskie, right? He's coming in, and what do we do in a figure 8? All right? So generally we're dealing with a negative and neutral fish, and now we got to convert Boatside with a glide bait. It's not the easiest thing in the world, and there's no, like I said, there's no silver bullet. What I'm going to give you are some ideas and some options, right? So it's never going to be this perfect scenario where this works every time. Nothing ever works every time in musky fishing, but having a structured mental plan for what you can do boat side is important with these things. So, you know, typical scenario, moderate conditions, we're working glide baits in, we're giving it pause, we're giving it our pause, you know, we're doing all this. All right, we're getting boat side here. Oh, he's there. What I want to do is continue that walk the dog by popping the rod, right? Sometimes you're gonna actually have to shove the rod back and forth, okay? What I want you to do to get more fish is, if dependent, and this is one reason I personally don't fish a lot of straight wire leaders anymore because of boat side figure 8 scenarios with glide baits, is I want that slinkiness where I can still get an action out of it, right? You can at times pick up a little bit more walk boat side by leaving. I'm just gonna reel it in here and get it just a tick further out, maybe like a little more length, right? You can get a little more bounce out of him, and you'll find that sweet spot, and it's just from messing with it. That's about right with this bait, of not a lot of force, right? And this is why I fish a 12-inch leader with these things. An 18's not gonna be perfect for every bait, and you know, a 12 might not be, but I can leave out just the secret sauce, the right amount of line to have enough bounce to get this guy to walk. So we're trying to keep the action going. We got to do something. We have a following muskie, right? So to that, we've got our thing. We got our follow. I'll speed her up here. Okay, I come in. Okay, there's the follow. Oh crap, you know. Bam. Keep that action going. You hear it with bucktails. We're gonna hang them in the corner. Same thing with a glove bait, right? You can get a hang bite right there. You can pause it and hopefully get that bite. I would say, and there's no statistic on this, I would say glide baits boat side are one of your lowest conversion rates on a straight motion, right? We still want to engage with some kind of pause, right? So what I like to do is, if I can, is actually jam that bait down, because I don't want a muskie in the corner hanging here, looking at that, looking at me, looking at the rod, or looking at the motion of us moving around here. So if I can, if the snare is right, work this glide bait, come in, try to jam that thing down, right? Keep that fish's head down, where I come up here and go, hang, hang, keep him down, hang it down, right? The other deadly scenario for glide baits, and I would say the more negative of a response you get from the fish, meaning you went to the figure eight and you went, nah, no, not for me, right? Or they're backing away, is dead sticking. It's a term you'll hear bantered around. Dead sticking is simply doing nothing, really. So we'll come into the scenario and at 8, and you'll see a fish coming in. There are times I won't even figure 8 if I know they're really negative or neutral. I will sit here and just let that thing fall, right? And I like, if you saw that, I just did that innately, which is feed them line. They don't fall. Like if you just open your reel, they kind of are fighting, not fighting, but it's a little bit more time. So if I know there's a fish behind that bad boy, I'll come in, I'll go, oh crap. We got another sluggish one, right? Feed him a couple rips right there, let that thing go down, re-engage my reel, and then popping that bait in place, right? So I'll get it up high so you can see. It's just kind of gonna do that. It ain't pretty, but it's something, right? Dead sticking works quite often for those low following fish. If you get your glide bait here, the deeper the follower, the more apt I am to dead stick that fish, right? If he's right up on it, let's get him in the figure eight. If he's coming in creepy slow, one of these guys, right? Or he doesn't have a lot of motion in their body. You hear guys talk about reading a follow. The way I look at it, if that fish is coming in and I'm like a hula girl right now, folks. But if he's got this going on, that's hot fish. If he's coming in like a 2x4 with teeth, that's not a hot fish, right? So you need to make that judgment call. Usually you'll know after the first follow or so where he doesn't eat. Like I said, come in here, boom, get ready. Oh, there he is. Couple strips real quick, you know, and then I'll play that fish right here, bang. Eat it, eat it. You'll see, and it's odd, especially with live imaging now. It's not that different with a dead stick bait to what you'll see them with a sucker. Like you'll see on live imaging, here's the sucker and the muskie comes in and just stares at it. We're doing the same thing here. You know, they're just looking at the bait gun, and sometimes they just hog off on it, and sometimes they don't. If I have a fish that's just, he's staying down there, you can see him on the dead stick. At times, you know, I'll have that bait down, whatever the distance is, you know, 3-4 feet under the boat or whatever that we're looking at down there. You know, I've been dead sticking. I will just try to get away from him, you know. I'm not ripping that hard, if you notice, but I'll just like elevate the bait back up higher in the water column and see if that gets the eat, right? So if we've toyed with him, man, he's just looking at it. All right, bring it up, see what he does, right? That's kind of the tough part in figure eighting. Something I want to address real quick, and something I've always found to be interesting about glide baits. What side of your body you're setting your hook with, right? Now this is going to sound goofy, I guess, to some, but when I'm pausing my baits and I'm actively musky fishing, right? As a left-handed angler, I want that bait to be paused with its head pointed to the left. When I set the hook, my hook set is coming here, right? My hook set is going to the left. If you're a righty, your hook's going to the right. Well, hit me one day. If I pause this bait, and we're going to do it this way, over the shoulder here, it'll make more sense. So we're looking at the bait, right? This bait's coming at us. Left, right, okay? If I'm paused and I'm going to exert force with my rod on a left-handed hook set, right? Bam, that bait is going to go to the left. So as the muskie comes in from behind it, he grabs the bait, I'm applying force this way, hooks in, right? If I, as a left-handed angler, have that bait pointed to the right and the muskie hits, I'm now rolling the bait over in its mouth. Your hookup ratio on glide baits is going to go through the roof when you pay attention to that. I swear it to you, it's not overthink, it is total physics, right? So if that bait is out there and I pause it on the left and he hits, however he hits it, more force is going this way, easier hook slide. If I pause it this way, to the right, he hits it, I again have to pull those hooks backwards and hope that they get him. Guys that fish glide baits a lot, think back to catches and think about fish that you've had hooked in weird places with glide baits. They probably hit on the offhand. Now, you go, how do I know which way this is going, okay? What we're going to realize is with most glide baits, you can see them when they hit. You usually see the first, even if you're working them deep, the bait's going to hit. So when this bait comes out here, it's going to hit the water. It's going to the right. So right, left, left, right, left. I'm going to only pause when I have it positioned the way I want it. Pause, that's on the left, right? And you'll get a feel for which way that bait is pointed more often than not. It's not perfect, but if you see which way it went, and instead of going 1, 2, you hear people count their glide baits to go 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, and then pause, and I did it to start the video. I am looking at which way it's going. More often than not, that's my game. So as this bait hits, I'll show you a cast. Went to the left, so left, right, left, right. So I go left, right, left, right, left, you know, and mix it up. So I know I should pause on what? As a lefty, I should pause on a left. As a righty, you should pause on a right. And you're going to have a way higher hooking percentage on fish that eat on the cast. Again, if you're considering which way it's pointing, you'll just get in a habit. We all go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Change that up to left, right, and it's going to do you a world of good because you'll innately get which way that bait's going. Like I said, there's going to be times you think you got it going right, but if you're focused on that and paying attention to how that's walking, you'll catch more fish. I'll do it again. So, you know, there it goes to the right. So I go left, right, left, and I can pause. Or left, right, you know. If it goes the one way, you're trying to pay attention. But in a perfect world, go left, right. So go left, right, left, stop. I know I'm on hand for that hook set, right? It's a little overthink, but if you really want to elevate your musky fishing with glide baits, consider which way that bait's pointed, because we're not pulling the hooks out backwards. Guys, there's so much you can do with these baits. There's so many applications. They're never ending. If you're getting started in your musky journey, I know I've been standing here with the Hellhound. I love them both. Hellhounds, Phantoms, they're the easiest to work. They've caught more muskies than probably any other glide baits on planet Earth, and they're available at the Musky Shop in some amazing colors. These are going to get you started down the right path, and they're definitely going to put more muskies in your net.